Okay, we're here ready to combine more like terms and solve even harder, more difficult equations. And what I'm seeing here is an equation that has variables on both sides of equals. If I draw my dividing line here, I can see two sides of this equation. I can see that I've got an n on the left, and then I've got a couple of n's on the right. What I want to do here is I want to move letters left, numbers right. Okay, just like we've talked about when we're dealing with variables on both sides of equations. But first, before I begin moving anything left or right, I want to combine everything that I possibly can, okay? Step one, when we're solving these big, long equations like this, step one is always going to be combine like terms first, okay? Combine like terms first. Combine like terms first. Then we'll be ready to move forward. Okay, so if I'm looking first on the left side. Do I see anything that's alike that I could possibly group together to make my life easier? The answer here is no. One of the terms has a variable, one of the terms does not. They're not alike, they cannot combine. But if I look on the right side, if I look on the right side, I see a number, a constant, no variable, and I see another number with a variable, and then a third just a variable. And since these are the same letter, I can group them. I can combine them. So I'm going to give some symbols here. I'm going to do a double underline to show that these are like terms. If you'll remember to last week, it kind of helps if I'll draw some symbols here. And what I want to make sure you understand is when you just see a letter by itself, just N, no number in front, no coefficient there, I pretend like there is an invisible number 1. So the question might be, how many n's do I have? Well, I have 1 n. And if that's the case, I get to combine that 1 n with this 13 n. They're both positive. So when I combine them, and remember we're just grouping here, when I combine them, I end up with a positive 14n. Okay, positive 14n. So in other words, these things just added together to make 14n. Everything else at this point is just going to drop straight down the line. Now this is confusing. -2 and a 14n. There's no symbol in between here. That's because I forgot that if it's positive 14n and it's in the middle of my problem, I need to put a symbol there to show what kind it is. It's a plus. It's a plus 14n. We're going to drop our equal sign. Okay, we're going to bring straight down the line 5n and 34. Okay, so now all of my like terms have been combined, and I worked with the expression just on the right side of the equal sign. I didn't try to move letters left or numbers right. I was just combining like terms. Okay, so step 2 over here. Step 2 can be letters left, numbers right. Because I see that I have variables on both sides of equals, and we're ready to now move letters left and numbers right. Okay, so what's a letter on the on the right side that I want to move to the left? Well, I'm looking at this plus 14n. I know I want all of my n's on this side of equals. So I'm going to move this guy across the equals barrier, and how do I get it from here to here? I do the opposite of what it says here. If it says plus 14n, I'm going to subtract 14n from both sides. And remember, I want to line up directly under the other term that has the variable that matches. Okay, so directly under, we're going to draw our equals line all the way across here. Give us a baseline all the way across. These guys cancel out. That was the whole point. I can drop down the -2. I can bring down my equals. I can bring down my plus 34. And I've got some subtracting to do here. If I'm taking away more than what I started with, I know my answer is going to end up negative. Okay, imagine that I had $5 and I needed 14. I'm short. I don't have enough. So it's going to be negative 9n. Okay. Now we're to step 3, and this is going to be a 2-step equation in which we're just going to follow PEMDAS. Excuse me, not a B, but a P. PEMDAS backwards. We're looking here, is there anything that I could add or subtract? Don't lose that negative. Is there anything that I can add or subtract? Well, they're adding 34, so our operation is subtract 34 from both sides. Minus 34 and minus 34. Okay, again, let's draw that baseline all the way across. These cancel. I can drop my negative 9 equals, don't lose the n, okay, negative 9n equals, again, I'm taking away, and I'm already $2 in the hole. Now I've got to come up with 34 more. So I'm still in the hole, 36, negative 36. Okay, so we added or subtracted. That was step 1. Step 2 is going to be multiply or divide. And I'm looking here, I see negative 9 times n. So my option at this point is going to be divide by negative 9 on both sides. Here's that power 1 that we like so much. Okay, that leaves me n by itself equals, when I have a negative divided by a positive, I end up with a negative 4. Final answer. Okay. So that looked like a big, long process, but really it's exactly what we have been doing. We're just combining like terms before we get started, okay? All right, so we have time and room to do one more nice example here. So we're gonna do, it's gonna say negative 5 plus 25x minus 40x minus 10 is equal to negative 4x minus 8x. Okay, negative 4x minus 8x. All right. So before we dive in here, I want to divide my equation into 2 separate expressions. One on the left side, one on the right side. And my first step, and we're going to follow these same 3 steps right here. My first step is going to be combine like terms. So we're looking through the expression on the left, and we're identifying, are there any like terms that I can combine? And remember, we're only working on the left side right now. So what I see here, let's start with the variables. Let's start with a positive 25x. Okay, I'm going to draw my circle all the way around the symbol as well, the sign. And a negative 40x. Okay, a positive 25 and a negative 40. All right, when I combine those 2 things, I end up with a negative 15x. A negative 15x. All right, negative 15x. The next thing I want to do is I want to combine my like terms that don't have a number. That don't have a variable. So I've got a negative 5 and a negative 10. A negative 5 and a negative 10. When I group those together, that makes a negative 15. But these terms don't have a variable. Okay, so just negative 15. Is equal to negative 4x minus 8x. Negative 4x minus 8x. So on this side, I have 2 terms that are alike again. And I think I'm going to use the same orange here, and I'm going to put a circle. And I'm going to make sure I cover the entire thing, including the sign. Okay. So I've got a negative 4 and a negative 8. I'm in the hole, and I'm digging deeper. This is going to combine to form a negative 12x. Negative 12x. Okay. I have combined like terms on both sides of equals before I'm getting started solving. My second step here is to do letters left, numbers right. Letters left, numbers right. Okay, so I see this letter, negative 12x, and it's on the right side, and I want it on the left side. So how do I move it? I add it. Why? Because negative 12x is undone by adding. Where do I add that 12? Right under here where it says negative 15. Okay, so plus 12x. We want to make sure we're lining up those letters. Okay, draw my baseline all the way across. These guys cancel. This is interesting. What happens when everything's gone from one side of the equation? We don't panic, we just put 0. That's my placeholder. That's going to hold the phone until I'm ready to see what's coming on this side. I get to drop the negative 15. Haven't dealt with that guy yet. He comes straight down. Negative 15x plus 12x gives me a positive 3x. Okay, positive 3x. And at this point, I'm ready for PEMDAS backwards. PEMDAS backwards. So I'm looking, is there anything I could add or subtract to make my life easier where I can get this variable by itself? Yeah, they're subtracting 15. So if I will add 15 to both sides, I can get rid of it. Okay. That way I'm going to bring down my 3x. 0 plus 15 is 15. Now I'm ready to multiply or divide from both sides. Multiply or divide. They're multiplying 3x, so my move's going to be divide. I get my power 1, and I'm left with x equals 15 divided by 3 is 5. Final answer, x equals 5. So again, we went through this 3-step process. Combine like terms, letters left, numbers right, PEMDAS backwards. Okay. Combine like terms first, then letters left, numbers right, then PEMDAS backwards.